Every great team has a face, a superstar, a coach, but behind the Knicks team that's 2 wins from a title, there's a man who almost never speaks in public, rarely does interviews, and yet quietly engineered this entire thing. He didn't come up as a scout or a coach. He came from the other side of the table as one of the most powerful agents in basketball. This is the story of the architect. His name is Leon Rose, and his background is unlike almost any executive in the league. Most team presidents spent decades grinding in scouting departments. Rose spent his career representing the players, negotiating against the teams. So when he switched sides, he brought something no normal executive had: a Rolodex of relationships and a deep understanding of exactly how players think. This is Game is Culture. Real quick before we dig in, if you like breakdowns that go behind the scenes instead of just yelling takes at you, go hit subscribe. It's free and it genuinely helps, so click it. First, who Leon Rose actually is. Before New York, Leon Rose ran the basketball division at one of the biggest agencies on the planet. He represented some of the biggest names in the sport, including LeBron James at one point. He spent years inside the rooms where contracts get done and stars decide their futures. So when the Knicks hired him as president in 2020, they weren't hiring a basketball lifer, they were hiring a deal maker. And he didn't come alone. Rose brought in William Wesley, a man so connected around the league, they call him Worldwide Wes, as a top executive. Together, they turned the Knicks front office into a relationship machine. The whole philosophy shifted. Instead of just evaluating players, New York started leveraging who they knew and who trusted them. That's a different way to build a team. The signing that started it all. Rose's masterpiece began in 2022. He signed Jalen Brunson to a 4-year, $104 million deal. And here's the connection that mattered. Rose had deep ties to the Brunson family. Jalen's father, Rick, had been in Rose's orbit for years. So while other teams saw a good backup guard, Rose saw a future franchise player he uniquely understood. He bet big, and he was right. At the time, people roasted it. $100 million for a guy who'd been a role player in Dallas? It looked like a classic Knicks overpay. But Rose understood something the market didn't. Brunson had star upside that the right situation could unlock. So he gave him the keys, and Brunson turned into a top 10 player and the captain of a finals team. That one signing is the seed of everything. Now, you could say any agent with good contacts could sign a player. Recruiting isn't building, and that's fair. So the real test of Rose isn't the Brunson signing, it's what he did next, when he had to make cold, expensive, franchise-altering decisions with the whole future on the line. From dealmaker to roster builder. Once Brunson was the foundation, Rose got aggressive. He traded 5 unprotected first-round picks for Mikal Bridges, reuniting Brunson's old Villanova teammates. Then he flipped Julius Randle and a rotation guard into Karl-Anthony Towns. In 2 summers, the dealmaker turned a fun team into a true contender by spending nearly every asset he had. And then he made the call that ties this whole finals together. Rose hired Mike Brown as head coach, a proven winner with championship pedigree. So the agent didn't just collect the players, he hired the man to lead them. Foundation, supporting cast, and coach. Every layer of this team has Leon Rose's fingerprints on it, even though you almost never hear his voice. Quick interruption because now's the time. If you're enjoying this behind the scenes stuff, hit subscribe. I'm not gonna beg, but I am going to ask. So hit it, and I'll keep going. Step back and look at the whole structure he built. A superstar foundation in Brunson, a reunited Villanova core, a floor spacing all-star in Towns, a championship coach on the sideline, and a war chest of relationships that made players want to come and stay. That is a complete contender, assembled by a man who 4 years ago had never run a team. Now the criticism, because there's a real one. Here's the honest knock on Rose. When an agent becomes an executive and starts doing business with his old agency's clients, people raise their eyebrows about conflicts and cozy relationships. And his aggressive trades drained the Knicks' future. The same risky bet we've talked about. So the relationship machine that built this also draws fair questions about how the sausage gets made. But weigh it honestly. On one side, the criticism, the conflict questions, the spent draft capital. On the other, the results. A franchise that hadn't truly mattered in a generation is 2 wins from a title. For a fan base that suffered for decades, that trade-off isn't close. The questions are fair. The banner would answer most of them. And that's what makes Rose such a fascinating figure. He proved that the skills of a great agent, reading people, building trust, closing deals, can translate into building an entire contender. He didn't out-scout anybody, he out-connected them. In a league obsessed with analytics, the Knicks rose on relationships. So the next time you watch this Knicks team, remember the quiet man who never takes the microphone. Brunson is the face, Mike Brown runs the bench, but Leon Rose is the one who put every single piece in the room. The most powerful person in this finals might be the one you'd never recognize if he walked past you. Consider how unusual his path really is. The typical NBA executive spends 20 years in film rooms and scouting trips. Rose spent those years on the phone, building relationships and closing deals. So he sees the league differently. To him, a roster isn't just talent on a spreadsheet. It's a web of people, trust, and leverage. And that perspective turned out to be a genuine weapon. It also explains why players want to come to New York now. For years, the Knicks were a punchline that stars actively avoided. Rose flipped that, partly through winning and partly through trust. When the man running the team used to fight for players' interests, players believe he'll take care of them. That reputation is a recruiting tool that money simply cannot buy. And he's been willing to be patient and ruthless in the same breath. He waited years for the right moment, then struck hard the instant it came. That balance is rare. Most executives are either too cautious to ever win big or too reckless to last very long. Rose timed his aggression, and timing is the hardest discipline in the entire job. So whether or not you love how he operates, the scoreboard is hard to argue with. A franchise that wandered the wilderness for a generation is suddenly one of the best run organizations in basketball. And it all changed the moment an agent sat down in the big chair and started treating team building like the most important deal of his life. And maybe the most telling thing about Leon Rose is how little credit he seeks. In an era of loud, camera-ready executives, he operates in near silence, letting Brunson and the players take the spotlight. That isn't an accident, it's the same instinct that made him a great agent. Put the client first, stay in the shadows, and let the work speak. So as this finals plays out, remember that the quietest man in the building may be the one most responsible for it being here at all. So I'll hand it to you. Is Leon Rose a genius architect or an agent who got lucky that his first big bet turned into a superstar? Tell me where you land down in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to subscribe. We're in a race to 1,000 subscribers, so please join the family.